Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. Today I'm adding Stanley, the search for Dr Livingstone, to my ever-growing list where I rank every Evercade game ever. It can be found on the Pico Collection 3 for the Evercade, and it was originally released for the NES in 1992. It's an action-adventure game that leans into exploration and platforming. This is a game that I'd heard of back in the day. I was vaguely aware of it, but I'd never played it, so there's no nostalgia here. But when it was announced to be coming to Evercade thanks to Pico, it's one I was curious to try out. In the game you play as Henry Morton Stanley, and you're tasked with finding Dr Livingstone, who's gone missing in the African wilderness. So the adventure sees you following his footsteps through the jungle. On the visual front of things, it's not all that special. The animation is lacking and looks a bit odd. The main sprites generally lack detail, although the environments do sell the whole deep dark jungle thing, which pretty much suits the pulp adventure feel it's going for. But considering it is a late era NES game, it looks more like an early one. There's also a huge amount of repetition in the environments, with areas being recycled over and over. The sound effects are adequate, again nothing special. The music is very limited and repetitive. It leans into a sort of tribal inspired rhythm, and while it's not bad, it loops over and over. There's really not much music to speak of, but what there is fine. Really, it's in the gameplay where Stanley shows its ambition, even if it falls shy of the mark. It's a non-linear, exploration-based platformer, but it's not a Metroidvania if that's what you're thinking from that previous statement. You have a large overland map to explore. Stanley arrives fresh off the boat, and you have a platforming section to contend with. There's NPCs to talk to, items to collect, and even the odd enemy to vanquish. You quickly learn that you have a helicopter type thing which acts as a glide function to your jump, but the only weapon you have at your disposal is your fists. You're quickly told that your grappling hook and your machete were stolen and you need to retrieve them. Once you leave this area, you'll be greeted with your map, where you can move north, east, south and west as you'd expect. The map is essentially divided up into grids, and each square of the grid acts as a platforming level of the game. Of course, the map is unexplored, so the first time you enter a new grid it takes you to the platforming level. However, once you have completed one of these mini levels, you don't have to play through them every time you enter that map section, but you can choose to, in case you missed anything on them. And this is where the repetition comes in. A lot of these areas are repeated, with only minor differences between them, be it enemy placement or the inclusion of an item in them. From there, the gameplay unfolds, with you searching areas, finding items which allow you to get past gates or barriers in other sections, and so on and so forth. There's a number of items to get. Some, as I mentioned, will help you bypass a gate or defeat a boss-like enemy, and there are weapons and health pickups as well. Not to mention your machete and grappler out there somewhere. The grappling hook naturally allows you to climb to areas you wouldn't otherwise be able to reach. And there are other weapons to find as well as your machete. There's a club and a blowgun. There are also limited use weapons such as spears, rocks, axes and knives. Despite the repetition, the exploration really adds to the adventure feel of the game, and it works fairly well, but it can also leave you going back and forth unsure what to do, as the game doesn't tell you that explicitly, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can be off-putting. The two main areas where the game falls down are the combat and the platforming. The combat is pretty poor, especially at first before you retrieve your machete or get any of the other weapons, and even with them it's not great. The platforming isn't particularly great either. What isn't a platform isn't always clear. What you can reach and jump to, again, it can be a bit ambiguous, and sometimes you find yourself falling off edges because the collision detection of your character and the edge aren't exactly where you'd expect. Throw in some awkward clunky scrolling, annoying enemy respawns and strange difficulty spikes, it can be frustrating. Naturally this is reduced because of save states, but in its original form I can see why a lot of people wouldn't like this game. It's hard to get into. This cartridge has been out for probably almost 2 years now, and I've tried to sit down and get into this game a number of times and have failed on every attempt, until my most recent effort. It took me about 5 hours to finish the game, and that included a reasonable amount of aimless wandering around early on trying to work out exactly what I'm supposed to do. But I did enjoy the exploration element, and there's a charm to the pulp adventure stylings that it has, even if my nickname for the game is Stanley the Search for Outdated Stereotypes. Overall, it's ambitious, janky, flawed, difficult to get into, and one that I couldn't recommend to most people. but if you don't mind exploring older archaic styles of gameplay, maybe you'll find something to like in this one. And as I'm one of those types of people, I probably rank it more highly than others do. Speaking of which, I'm placing it on my overall ranking list above Diver Boy, but below Clay Fighter 2. Anyway, I think that's enough rambling about this game. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.